I want to recreate the Villa de Papery. I had absolutely no idea what he was talking about, and I think that very few people, except for a few scholars of antiquity, would have known what he was talking about. What he was talking about was a large country house that had been on the slopes of Vesuvius, just outside Herculaneum, and had been destroyed when Vesuvius had erupted in 79 AD.
The Villa de Papery was first discovered in the 18th century under layers of hardened volcanic debris. Excavators for the Bourbon King of Naples cut tunnels deep underground through rock-like material in order to explore it. The works of art they discovered were added to the king's collection. They also found hundreds of burned papyrus rolls, which later gave the Villa de Papery its name. Because of these philosophical texts, scholars believe that the home's owner may have been Lucius Calpurnius Piso, Julius Caesar's father-in-law.
Getty had always been fascinated by antiquity, and clearly this large country house fascinated him particularly, partly with his grandeur, partly with his association with Julius Caesar, partly with the extraordinary objects that were found when it was excavated.
In Getty's time, and even today, most of the Villa de Papery remains buried underground. Fortunately, the engineer in charge of the original excavations had drawn a precise map. It was that ground plan that served as the starting point for the Getty Villa. The museum's design reflects not only the Villa de Papery, but also ancient dwellings preserved in the flows of Vesuvius. Luxury homes in Herculaneum, Pompeii, and Atlantis, once graced with frescoes, gardens, and works of art. Getty's love of art developed out of a keen interest in history and travel. In the 1960s, he owned a villa in the Bay of Naples, a place he found captivating. As a young man, he toured Europe while attending college at Oxford. Later, as his oil empire and wealth grew, Getty visited the Mediterranean and Near East and developed a passion for collecting art.
He bought his first antiquity in 1939, actually, at an auction in London. And some of the pieces that he collected over the next 20 years are still very important for our installation today. He bought the magnificent Lansdowne Heracles. He bought the portrait of a woman as a priestess of Cybele, and also the beautiful portrait of Julia Titi.
At first, the art Getty collected was displayed in one of his homes, a large ranch-style house still located on the villa grounds.
In the 1950s, the ranch house was converted into a kind of house museum. It was open 3 days a week. Afternoons only. It was a rather relaxed pace, but people were able to come and see these wonderful antiquities together with the old master paintings and the splendid French furniture he'd collected.
But even after a wing was added to the house, it wasn't enough space to accommodate the art. And as Getty's collection expanded, he wanted to share it with a wider audience. Construction on the villa began in the early 1970s. By this time, Getty was living in England, but was still eager to oversee the work. He hired Stephen Garrett to travel between Malibu and London to update him on its progress. He took great interest in every aspect, from the pouring of cement foundations to the selection of floor tile colors. J. Paul Getty died in 1976 without ever seeing the villa, but what he bequeathed to the institution as his legacy to art continues to flourish.
The villa opened in 1974, and over the next 23 years, the collections grew incredibly. All the collections, not just the antiquities. And not only have the collections grown, the Getty Trust itself had grown to include a conservation institute, a research institute, educational programs, and the staff of the Getty Trust itself. For that reason, the Board of Trustees decided to build a new museum and other buildings which would house these growing activities. The critical decision they made for the villa was that it would always remain the home to the Getty's Antiquities collection.
The challenging task of reimagining the villa began several years before the building closed for renovation in 1997. The second floor, which originally held old master paintings and French furniture, had to be redesigned for antiquities. Other considerations included adding natural light and unifying the museum visually.
Everything is here the same.
It takes you away from your everyday world, from the traffic, from the smog and everything. It elevates us out of that. It's just, wow, am I in heaven?
I love that the art of the Getty is always changing. Once you think you've seen everything, then they bring in new exhibits.
Every time I come, it's a new experience.
I actually get a different view of not only the museum, but of the world.
Welcome to the Getty Museum. It's a place to explore, a place to be inspired, a place to see and to discover. The Getty is home to one of the most dynamic and unique art organizations in the world. It all began in 1954, when oilman J. Paul Getty opened a museum in his ranch house in Malibu, giving the people of Los Angeles a unique place to look at and be enriched by art. As the collection grew, Getty built a new museum in the style of a Roman villa to house it. Today, the Getty Villa in Malibu showcases the museum's collection of Greek, Roman, and Etruscan antiquities. After 13 years of design and construction, the Getty expanded from its home at the Getty Villa into a second location on this beautiful campus designed by architect Richard Meyer. Meyer's stunning architecture was designed with great precision, carefully drawing your eye to interesting and sometimes surprising views. The Central Garden, designed by California artist Robert Irwin, is a sculpture in the form of a garden. It was commissioned by the Getty and is part of the museum's permanent collection. The Getty Museum's continually growing collection at the Getty Center is home to European paintings, drawings, sculpture, illuminated manuscripts, decorative arts, and photographs from all over the world.
What stands out to you in contrast?
A lot of the brush strokes. Much more detail in the woman's making hands.
There's a great power in observing anything. When people come, they bring their own context or their own meaning to the art. They speak to the art, and art speaks back to them. You've got a perfect dialogue.
The Getty is a place for dialogue, with art, and with the art world. Through relationships with organizations all over the world, the Getty Museum brings an array of artworks to its galleries for changing exhibitions, some shared for the first time ever outside their home countries. The exhibition design process brings together a number of departments at the museum.
Every gallery has a 1-inch scale model that we work on. We go into the model, placing the objects so that we can figure out spacing, visitor flow, what objects go next to which, and the overall color and any other design ideas that we'll need to prepare for.
Starting with the curator's vision, a wide range of staff work together to create dozens of critically acclaimed temporary exhibitions every year. The museum also presents exciting public programs which allow visitors to deepen their experience of the exhibitions. As well as being an exceptional museum, the Getty is a leader in working to understand and preserve our cultural heritage, both in LA and all over the globe. The Getty Conservation Institute brings together art, science, and related fields in its work to advance the practice of conservation throughout the world. In China, a Getty Conservation Institute team helped develop ways to preserve and protect 1,000-year-old cave paintings.
This is a very small trace just there.
This figure is quite interesting because there's a whole sequence of building up these figures.
Getty conservation professionals are part scholar, scientist, artist, and detective, as they seek ways to preserve the diversity of art that forms our common cultural heritage. The Getty Research Institute is one of the world's most important art libraries, where scholars from all over the world work to better understand art and the life and times of the artists who created it.
Paris a disparu. Okay, so there are lots of references to Paris and parts of Paris, but not always necessarily nostalgic.
Look at what an amazing silhouette of the Eiffel Tower that has just been built just around this time. And we have the photographs here, a special collection of the construction of the Eiffel Tower.
The Getty Research Institute also creates changing exhibitions, offering visitors a window into rare and exciting moments in art history. The Getty Foundation's philanthropy supports the work of scholars and conservators in more than 175 countries. Their work helps to preserve and showcase our diverse cultural heritage on every continent around the world. And right here in Los Angeles. The Getty. From breathtaking works of art and architecture to profound works of art scholarship and preservation. This is a place for exploration and discovery. A home for imagination and inspiration. And you are welcome to explore. This is the Getty.